The absurdities of pro wrestling explained. Cashing in. For whatever reason, every WWE official forgets the English language and also throws everything they thought they knew about physical and verbal cues out the window when it's time for Mr. or Mrs. Money in the Bank to cash in Money in the Bank. If you were watching wrestling in 2018, you definitely remember when Kyoto took multiple centuries to start Carmella's cash-in of Money in the Bank against Charlotte Flair. Imagine being Carmella inside the kayfabe universe of pro wrestling. She's furious. The ineptitude of these referees has also costed people valuable opportunities. Mr. or Mrs. Money in the Bank has tried to cash in before, and he or she gets thwarted by a rival just because Little Nate forgot everything he understood about existing in the very intense moment of a cash-in. This doesn't apply to Seth Rollins, of course. They rang that bell very fast in the main event of WrestleMania 31. The force field that is pro wrestling ropes. You'll know just how badly a wrestler wants to destroy their opponent by whether or not they decide to lift the top rope with one hand in order to exit the ring and chase their rival. Somebody could have just committed the most egregious form of robbery via match interference, and as long as that person escapes outside of the ropes before he's touched, he or she will pretty much be safe in the short term. Undertaker was willing to learn how to teleport to his opponents wherever they are in a building just to traumatize and destroy them when he gets the chance. Yet there's a large portion of wrestlers throughout history who don't care enough to obliterate their opponent because of ropes. They'll just stand there holding the ropes, grinding their teeth like a loser while they stare at their rival whose facial expression says he just hit the most devious of licks. The ejection of people ringside. The Boogeyman, Undertaker, The Fiend, Kane, all of you step aside. The scariest thing a pro wrestler can ever encounter is a referee ejecting them from ringside. Pro wrestlers are defiant and resilient in so many ways. They're almost always willing to stand up for what they believe in, and they're willing to do more than just stand for what they believe in when they feel whatever they believe in is being threatened, except when a referee says it's time to go. The wrestlers will leave every single time. There's never even any security that escorts them out of ringside either. The person or group will always voluntarily act like their entire world just crumbled under them, and they will reluctantly leave ringside to the back. Very rarely will the ejected person make a return in the late stages of a match, which is something Solo Sikoa knows all too well about, but that's not something that happens often. Wrestlers are the most rebellious characters in television history, except when it comes to getting ejected from ringside by a referee. The lack of logic behind certain wrestling moves. Explain the Spanish Fly to someone who has never watched a second of pro wrestling. Explain a Canadian Destroyer to a hardcore MMA fan who has never seen a second of pro wrestling. Try articulating to someone how a Moonlight Drive neckbreaker works and see how the person reacts. These moves rely too heavily on the person who is getting flown Spanish style or getting destroyed Canadian style or getting their neck broken on Moonlight Drive to make the move look somewhat normal. A sunset flip powerbomb also makes no sense. These are fun to watch, of course, and we try not to think about these things when we watch the product, but these are the absurdities of pro wrestling, aren't they? Randy Orton, every time he does an RKO onto an announcer's table. Randy, you're hurting your back way more than the person you're RKOing is getting hurt from the cutter. Just do it in the ring. Body slam him through the table or pedigree people or something. You need to equip a new ringside finisher. Where is the police? Pro wrestling is a hilarious worldwide universe where laws don't really exist. Doesn't matter what country you're in. The laws of that country do not apply because WWE is its own sovereign nation wherever it is on earth, apparently. The cops are only called when it's appropriate for one or two parties involved, and even then, Roman Reigns tried attempting deliberate vehicular homicide on Braun Strowman at Great Balls of Fire 2017, and nothing really happened to Roman Reigns. Braun Strowman actually walked away on his own 2 feet after the incident, which may have, but shouldn't have, contributed to whether or not kayfabe Triple H or Raw GM at the time, Kurt Angle, called the police. Just because you see Braun Strowman getting up on 2 feet and walking away doesn't mean you shouldn't call police on the man who just tried to destroy another human being. Vince has been arrested on Raw. The Miz and R-Truth were arrested at the end of a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Stone Cold was arrested on Raw, and all of them for their own funny reasons, but 90% of the time, it's pretty much the purge within the universe of pro wrestling. Remember that time Baron Corbin pinned Dean Ambrose under a crane? That's a charge. What Brock Lesnar did to Zach Gowen, that's gotta be a charge. When Kane rolled Zack Ryder off of the stage while he was handicapped, that's gotta be a charge. Undertaker drowning Paul Bearer in cement. I mean, we can go on and on and on. The health bars of referees. Pro wrestling referees, specifically WWE referees, have the frailest of bones, the softest of skin, the lowest of durability and stamina. The WWE referee is the most unathletic and most vulnerable character in the history of television. If there is a ref bump, expect that person to essentially be dead until the show goes off the air or until the very convenient moment the match needs to end. They might drag their broken bones and shattered limbs into and across the ring to count a very, very, very slow 3 count, but most of the the time, another referee will sprint down the ring. Pro wrestling referees have terrible memories and awful situation awareness as well. They're terrible at analyzing context clues. Their memory completely wipes away after every ref bump. It's all weird. A referee getting sandwiched into the turnbuckle means they have multiple cracked areas of their spine and loss of breath for multiple minutes. That's the nature of the business. It's only a matter of time before we get the referee unionization storyline, or before we start getting insanely buff referees. Tag team matches. When was the last time a tag team partner got counted out for the 5 count due to being out of the corner for too long? For as awful as wrestlers are at following match rules, they sure seem to follow that one the best, or referees once again are failing to do their job correctly. If there's a pro wrestler watching this, make sure you hold that damn white tag rope in your next tag match. It's on the top of the top turnbuckle. You'll see it. Follow the rules. Interruptions. Do you think there's a sign-up sheet at the production truck for every show? Maybe the wrestlers see the match card, and once they do, they go to the production truck to figure out when to interrupt their least favorite person. The production truck is totally in with the locker room, right? They let all these interruptions happen. It keeps the people in the production truck employed. How else does a WWE superstar perfectly interrupt their rival with entrance music every single time? A pro wrestler has never interrupted someone while they were saying something unimportant unless it was after they were completely done talking. And R-Truth is probably the only person to interrupt the wrong person. No one's ever tried to interrupt someone and be like, ooh, my bad. Could have sworn the person I wanted to interrupt was later or earlier in the show. Low blows. Of course, people will never actually low blow each other in the ring, but there should be a day or two in Wrestling Academy's work calendar dedicated to making those look as believable as possible. Which absurdity of pro wrestling was absent from this video? Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned.